with your host, Anya, where inner stillness meets universal truth. Tonight's guest, Blaise Kennedy, isn't just a spiritual teacher, he's a guide for those seeking deeper connections with self, soul, and the shared field of collective consciousness. With a focus that moves beyond personal development into relational and energetic healing, Blaise brings a powerful message. Awakening isn't a solo journey, it's a shared remembering. If you have felt that call to heal, manifest, and meditate in deeper harmony with the world around you, this one's for you. So, Blaze, your teachings go beyond the self, they are about connection. Why do you believe awakening must happen in relationship, not isolation?
Well, it can. First, thanks. It's good to be here. It can happen in isolation for thousands of years. People have been turning to a very deep personal spiritual practice, retreating to caves, to mountains, and sitting deep within themselves. And that is a realistic path. And I would suggest that even if you go down that route and you sit with yourself, you're going to find yourself in connection in the subtlety of your conscious anyways, but most people in the world are not going to do that. And that's not because they're lazy or they're doing the wrong thing, but because their life is one of participation. They have a career, they have a family, they respond to the world and the challenges they that they see before them. And this gives each person a unique path through life. Most of this path is relating with other people. Your childhood, your development as a child is relating to your family, learning to grow through the experiences you have within your family and culture. You form relationships, you find out what your skills are, you move through the world to achieve your highest adult self. So our everyday functions, what we're actually doing most of the time, is relating to other people. And in spirituality, within spirituality, that can be really de-emphasized. It can be a very powerful teaching to focus on the aspects of self or of consciousness that are singular, like awareness or the transcendent or any personal singular quality of consciousness. But that's not the only quality of those are not the only quality of consciousness. And what I like to show people is that in the subtlety of your experience from your body, you can access fields of consciousness, whether it's an energy or light, whether it's a sense of love or a sense of cosmic interconnection. You can access fields of consciousness that are by their nature interrelated. They are a fabric or a web of life that we are a part of. And so instead of seeking to transcend, to just to transcend those fields, I support people to participate in them. And as we do this, we find that our development, our well-being, and the well-being of everything else, everyone else, all other facets of reality are connected. And we learn to move from a personal model of development to a collective model of development. We grow together because we are part of the same fabric of life.
Absolutely. So, can you share how collective fields of consciousness shape or shift our healing journey?
So it's specific to healing, through the course of our lives, we collect stuff. And this means that we store memories and impressions and beliefs and habits in our body. In the structure of our body, we develop these habits. Again, most of those habits, we could say, are formed as a result of our experience of being in the world. We don't just have stuff because we are individuals. We have stuff because of what occurs between us and others. So when we look to heal, we can look, again, through personal practice or meditation, we can look to relax, to use various personal tools or orientations to resolve and heal energy. But again, and that's wonderful. But I really love to draw people's attention to the collective nature of reality. So these things that we hold in our body, whether we call them impressions or conditioning, or as I would describe trauma, stored energy, we look at when we release energy and when energy is not stored, what is it doing? So in my experience, what energy does when it's not being stored is it moves and it expresses itself and it relates to life. So generally we think I have me, I have my stuff, I have my healing journey. What I like to emphasize, what I am emphasizing is all of my energy actually belongs to the collective field. It's mine, it's in my body, it's personal to me. But as we move into the dimensions of consciousness where life is energy, this separation that we are used to as physical beings breaks down. And my energy, my thoughts, my feelings, my sensations, my nervous system, the subtlety of my being is not separate from the subtlety of all other beings. So as we go through life, again, we collect things, we become dulled or unconscious as a result of the way the fields are in this world now, because the fields are heavy and dense and lack the structure that would allow us to grow into our fully awakened selves. So later in life, we have a healing journey that we take on for ourselves and for our families, for our ancestors. And when we heal, what we are doing is we are healing our own body, but we are also healing the fabric of consciousness that is the collective. And so with some focus, what this means is when you focus, when you learn to focus on the experience of being related, of connection, which is the beginning of our experience of the collective fields, when we can focus on relationship, we can kind of plug our energy body, we can plug our nervous system into the collective field. And because I believe all energy is designed to actually go into the collective field, plugging ourselves into a field that can receive our energy is a very efficient, a very powerful way to move energy. So what this means is that I find we create in this world resources, beings that are very available to each other. And when this happens, energy moves very efficiently, not just through my body, but through the collective organism that we are forming. Now, the more that you do this, the more that you can perceive these collective fields, the more you can feel that there is this energetic matrix all around us. And because it's like a pool that we are all swimming in, we start to realize it's in all of our best interests for this pool of energy to be as healthy as possible. Now, if you look at the history of the planet, of human beings, you can see this field is not very healthy. We don't have particularly fluid and dynamic relationships with each other that allow all energy to move. There's a lot of conflict and pain in this world that does not get resolved, that creates a fragmentation in this field. And it's our job, our body is part of this field. Our job is to resolve this fragmentation and to allow the things that have been collected through our lives and all of human history to move. And when they move, the fabric becomes healthy. So again, the emphasis here is not on withdrawing our focus from the content of our body or mind, but feeling and expressing, expanding, allowing consciousness to expand through our feeling and our relating to each other.
It's powerful to realize that our personal breakthroughs ripple through the whole web of life.
Can you say that again for me, please?
Yeah, and it's so powerful to realize that our personal breakthroughs ripple through the whole web of life.
Absolutely. And conversely, because of the conditions of the universe and on Earth, personal breakthroughs are getting easier and easier. What I mean is that if you look at the history of awakening, especially in the West, because that's what I know particularly well, it used to be very hard to have personal breakthroughs. It was rare. And the people who did have personal breakthroughs seemed particularly special. But because the collective field is softening, and there's many reasons why, because the collective field is softening, personal breakthroughs are getting easier and easier. So this very sort of exciting reality where, on one hand, personal breakthroughs ripple through and transform the collective, and also because the collective is currently transforming rapidly, it's enabling more and more personal breakthroughs. So it's this very exciting time to be getting into awakening and healing in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you work deeply with meditation. What role does meditation play in both trauma healing and conscious manifestation?
Well, I would break meditation down into two parts. One is the element of discipline, or that you care, which means that when you commit yourself to a regular practice, a daily practice, intensive meditative practice, you are taking this thing called awakening or healing or meditation, you are elevating it to a point of focus in your life. It is something that is not in the background so much of your life, but comes ever more into the foreground. And when you benefit from meditation, and there's many ways to benefit from meditation, but as you see benefits from meditation, again, it becomes more and more and more part of your every moment. You go from, I want to meditate sometimes, to realizing that that sort of meditative, deeply present uh, state becomes available to you throughout your day, even when you aren't sitting actually trying or intending to meditate. So this is one thing. We elevate, we make it a priority to wake up and to heal. And the second thing is that meditation creates capacity. So our body and our nervous system is like an organism or a computer, and it functions particularly well when we learn the principles of it. So that this means, in especially that the nervous system, our thoughts, feelings, and sensations are fluid, meaning they're always moving. And the more relaxed we are through our body physically, and through our nervous system, through the subtle bodies, and in our focus, the more relaxed we are, the more efficiently energy moves through us. So if trauma or the things that we've collected through our life are stored energy that's going to need to move, creating the capacity to discharge energy or to feel is a priority. It's a very, very important. And meditation is a really wonderful way to develop that capacity. It also gives us over time, or very quickly, access to parts of our consciousness which are not in pain. It gives us resource. So again, trauma is going to be the things that we think about, the things that we feel about, the things that have happened to our life that are stored in our nervous system. And when we meditate often, we are able to relax our focus beyond that level of consciousness, beyond the thoughts, feelings, and sensations, to the more subtle experiences that can be energy, that can be love, that can be light, that can be the space of awareness. And in these subtle qualities, there's inherent well-being. And this inherent well-being becomes a resource, uh, a something that we use or lean into when there are challenges in our body. It allows us to stay calm and relax even when difficult life experiences are arising. Now, you asked about manifestation. Manifestation is a topic which is quite sophisticated, but what I would suggest is, again, these two principles. One, that when we meditate, we prioritize our best our best life, our healing, our awakening, the life that we want to have. And so this is a kind of manifestation in and of itself. It's like I take the time to really care for myself. I take the time to really feel and do what is right for me. In doing this, I am manifesting like my highest potential. I am, by taking the time, I am manifesting to create in life, to express in life requires us to feel what we want and be with it. Those are primary qualities. So again, when we sit, when we meditate, we are focusing and prioritizing on what really matters to us in this life. And as you connect to that, as you listen, that what really matters to you in life, what you care about, can expand. You can learn and discover more about what is essential about your life because you are listening. So taking time in contemplation connects us with deeper parts of ourselves. And then we stay with these parts of ourselves. We advocate them, we support them, we feel them, we share them with others. We bring them into the world because we have discovered them in ourselves and call them forth into our lives. So if we find, for example, a deep passion for something, anything in our life, that will be reflected in our body. And when we sit, we are nurturing, we're developing this passion by staying connected to it. And this helps us to live from this place and create this in the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, how can someone struggling to quiet the mind begin to soften into the practice?
Yeah, this is a common place where people begin meditation, is to want to quiet the mind. And the the principle that I'd like to outline is that our thoughts or our mind is not separate from the rest of our body. So it's not separate from our emotions. It's not separate from the sensations in our body. It's not separate from the subtle phenomena that occur throughout consciousness. So the way I like to describe thinking is it's like the voice of the energy that we are feeling, or of the content of our consciousness in our body. So I I invite people to quiet their mind, not directly by being with the thoughts themselves, but by being with all of the other content that lives within them. So what this means is that when I meditate, I don't focus solely on my thinking. I learn to sink, relax down into my body. And already in doing so, I have a wider, a more expanded focus. So even if there are thoughts, they're not going to dominate my experience so much. When all my attention is in my head, whatever thoughts that I have kind of dominate the experience. So as I learn to relax and broaden into my whole body and beyond that, the field and the space that is all around me, I create a bigger space. So this is one thing. In this bigger space, when I have thoughts, I can notice how they are connected and how they resonate through my body. So if I start thinking about what's happening later today, for example, and then I notice, oh, actually, I'm not breathing very deeply, or I'm carrying tension in my physical body, or I have anxiety. Now, now that I feel this, I can soften and relax into this. And when the body softens, the mind will soften too. So this is one strategy. Another strategy is there are meditation practices where you can focus on qualities of consciousness, again, like awareness, or you can do self-inquiry that bring our focus away from our thoughts altogether, or you could say our body altogether. And those can be particularly transformative and powerful. But even if we learn how to do that, I think we will still need to relate to the content of our body and soften into it. So again, the beginning is to realize that your thoughts are not an isolated system. They don't operate on their own. And to expand your focus into the rest of your consciousness and learn to soften and soothe or regulate the emotions and sensations that are present through your body. So this can be like a learning how to just directly soften into the body, allowing things to move, feeling our body as being fluid. And it can also include noticing the other qualities of consciousness, like space, that support the movement of energy as well and provide a deep sense of peace.
Yeah, I love that you focus on presence over perfection. Because stillness isn't silence, it's surrender.
Well, the 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 universe will never allow us to focus on one facet of consciousness exclusively. So no matter how open or awake or present to stillness you become, you will always have thoughts, feelings, and sensations. You will always be in the world. You will always have a body. And in my experience, it's to our benefit to broaden our practice to include all facets of life, to learn how they all work, and to do this together. And as you do this, you will realize that perfection is not very much a part of what we are doing here on Earth. It's certainly not a big part of the human story right now. And so you get used to the fact that there is a lot of change and uncertainty, and life is dynamic, and there's a constant process of discovery, and you make mistakes and you learn as you go. It's the unique challenge of being a human being.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, the word trauma is everywhere now. How do you define it within your spiritual framework?
Yeah. So trauma is anything that is stored in the body and consciousness that hasn't had a chance to move or complete itself yet. Now, the reason that we would store things, I would say, is because either it's overwhelming to our nervous system or to our consciousness, or second, it can't be expressed, it can't find relationship. So this could include thoughts, feelings, sensations, subtle phenomenon. It's present through our whole experience of development, our whole life, and the process of incarnating. So any part of these processes, which are movements, all of these processes that I've described are movement. Incarnating is the movement of light into the field and into the physical world. Development is the expansion of the subtle bodies. It's the expansion of the nervous system, the emotional body, the mental body. As all these things expand, all these processes happen, they are moving. Trauma is any part of this process which is incomplete, which ends up being stored. The way our consciousness or the way our body stores things is by contracting around it, and this stops the movement. So if something is overwhelming or something can't flow through life, there's an intelligence that stops, sort of contracts around the movement and stores it. And as this happens, the energy freezes, it stops moving. It's like to be digested later. It becomes a remainder, a leftover. And our consciousness, our focus, our consciousness leaves this area. We become unconscious to it. It becomes something that we can't feel, like a numb spot or a blank spot within ourselves. And over time, as we get older and older, we start to as we develop more consciousness, or we start to become curious about it, we notice these blank spots in our experience. We notice the symptoms of trauma, like parts of ourselves are missing, parts of ourselves don't work the way we feel they should, and we learn to reconnect, to come back into the body and find the parts of our consciousness which have been left over, the part of our incarnational process that has been stored, that is left over, the part of our developmental process that has been stored and has been left over, and also things that exist within the world before we were here, whether they're in our family or in our culture, energy from the past before our life, from our, again, our ancestors, our culture, our world, energy that has not moved yet. So the healing of trauma, primary healing of trauma, is just to allow things to move that have not moved yet. So again, when I describe consciousness in its subtle forms, its energy and light as a kind of fabric or structure, it's these pockets of energy that aren't moving that create damage to the fabric. So every time we release energy, like for example, I feel a sadness that I have not felt yet that's been stored in my body. Every time we feel this sadness, we're catching up. We're allowing energy from the past to complete itself. It flows through our nervous system into life and becomes part of this living field. So the more that we do this, the more that we heal the fabric of consciousness, the more that we feel and restore and complete the experience we have, the more integrated or whole this fabric becomes. And ultimately, this means that the people who incarnate after us, that our future has less trauma in it.
Absolutely. And that's such a nuanced truth. Healing is both a personal invitation and a shared responsibility.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And when I started my journey, I was much more concerned about the personal part of that. But as I went on, what happened to me is I became much less separate from life. So these dense or frozen places or parts where energy is stored in me, what that meant is I felt separate. I felt separate from life. I would hear somebody talk about the fabric or life, about collective fields, and I didn't experience that at all. I felt myself to be uh, primarily or exclusively an individual. And the more that energy resolved in me, the more I could see, the more I could feel that I am not separate from life. And then more and more, what is good for me became what is good for all of us. This reality that I'm sharing with you, but it doesn't have to start there. It's really healthy that it starts often with a much stronger sense of a personal interest. And as you grow in your capacity, this responsibility of the collective to the collective, this collective mentality or perspective becomes more and more available. But what I invite is that even if you are not aware of the collective fields of consciousness, that won't stop them from being very beneficial to your healing journey. So I invite people to engage with relational fields or collective fields from the very beginning of their journey, because they are extremely valuable to personal transformation for the reasons I've outlined, that all our energy actually belongs in relationship and connection anyways.
Hmm. Absolutely. So, what a beautifully expansive conversation with Blaise Kennedy. His presence reminds us that true awakening doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens in the dance between souls. Join his global community, explore his meditations, and step into your own role in healing the collective. So, until next time, breathe into your being, trust the connection, and let the sacred harmony lead the way.